For weeks, no one in the royal world asked whether Peter Phillips's bride would wear a tiara on her wedding day. They asked which of Princess Anne's she would borrow. The names were already circulating. The festoon, the Greek key Meander, perhaps even the aquamarine piece no royal bride had ever worn. The expectation was almost a foregone conclusion that Harriet Sperling would reach into her new mother-in-law's vault just as Peter's first wife had done 18 years earlier. And then she stepped out at the church, wearing a tiara that belonged to no one in the royal family at all. This is the story of the crown that wasn't a royal crown, a piece with a secret pedigree of its own, and why a quiet NHS nurse chose it over everything Princess Anne could have lent her. On the 6th of June 2026, Peter Phillips married Harriet Sperling at All Saints' Church in the village of Kemble, deep in the Cotswolds. It was a private ceremony, but a closely watched one. Peter is the eldest grandchild of the late Queen Elizabeth II, the son of the Princess Royal, and though he holds no title and has spent his life a careful step outside the spotlight, a wedding in this family is never entirely private. Harriet arrived in a floor-length gown by Amelia Wickstead, finished with a delicate lace overlay and a long lace veil that trailed behind her in the June air. On her feet, ivory satin Jimmy Choo heels, and her jewellery, every piece of it, came from a single house, Pragnell, the British jeweller that had also designed her engagement ring. She was, by profession, an NHS nurse. And in a few quiet decisions about what to wear, she was about to tell the watching world exactly who she intended to be. To understand why her choice landed the way it did, you first have to understand what everyone expected. There is a rhythm to royal weddings, and the tiara is its quiet centerpiece. Brides marrying into the family are most often lent a piece from a relative's collection, a gesture of welcome and a thread of continuity reaching back through the generations. And the precedent here was almost too neat. When Peter married his first wife, Autumn Kelly, in 2008, she wore Princess Anne's festoon diamond tiara. So when this second wedding was announced, the commentators reached for the obvious conclusion: Harriet too would borrow from Anne. The shortlist wrote itself. The festoon again, perhaps. The Meander Tiara, that striking Greek key design Zara Tindall had worn at her own wedding in 2011, or the pine flower aquamarine, a piece that, to this day, no royal bride has ever worn. But there was a second possibility, and it pointed in the opposite direction, because this was a second wedding for both of them, and recent history suggested restraint. When Princess Anne herself remarried, she wore no tiara at all. When Camilla married the then Prince Charles, she too set the tiara aside, choosing a hat instead. So the royal watchers found themselves divided. Either Harriet would honour tradition and borrow from Anne's vault, or she would honour the understatement of a second wedding and wear no tiara at all. Almost no one guessed the third path. When Harriet arrived at the church, she was wearing a tiara of diamonds and pearls, luminous, garland-like, unmistakably grand. But it was not Princess Anne's. It was not the king's. It did not come from any royal collection at all. It belonged to Pragnell, the very jeweller who had made her engagement ring. They had loaned it to her for the day and paired it with matching diamond and pearl earrings from the same house. In a single quiet gesture, Harriet had tied her entire bridal look not to the inherited grandeur of the House of Windsor, but to the jeweller who had marked the beginning of her love story with Peter. It was a decision both modest and quietly bold, and the moment you look closely at the tiara itself, it becomes something far more interesting. Pragnell described the tiara as a rare thing in the world of jewellery, a piece that carries the design language of two eras at once. It blends the soft elegance of the Edwardian period with the clean geometry of Art Deco, a combination the house itself calls very rare. Its silhouette is built from a festoon of laurel leaves picked out entirely in diamonds, with delicate floral motifs that move and tremble as the wearer turns her head. The effect is a garland, traditional, romantic, and yet somehow strikingly modern, resting against a bridal veil. But here is the detail that lifts this from a beautiful loan into something with real weight. This is not a modern commission. It is an heirloom, a piece owned by the Pragnell family themselves, worn by generation after generation across the decades. And it has been somewhere extraordinary. According to the house, this very tiara was present at 2 coronations, that of King George VI in 1937 and that of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. So while it has never belonged to the royal family, it has stood in the same rooms, beneath the same vaulted ceilings at the very moments the modern monarchy was being crowned. A privately owned jewel, with a ceremonial thread running straight into the heart of the House of Windsor. And then there is the resemblance. Pragnell themselves point it out. This tiara bears in their words a great likeness to one owned by Princess Anne, specifically the tiara she wore in the official photograph marking her 50th birthday in the year 2000. That piece is generally understood to be her Greek-inspired Meander Tiara. Consider what that means. Harriet did not wear Anne's actual tiara, but she arrived in one that looked remarkably like it. She found a way to nod to her new mother-in-law's signature style, the aesthetic Anne has worn for decades, while the piece on her own head remained entirely, independently hers. It was a visual echo, a gesture of respect, paid without borrowing a single royal jewel. Step back, and the full shape of Harriet's choice comes into view, and it is far more deliberate than a simple matter of taste. In one tiara, she gathered 3 threads together. There was romance. The piece came from the jeweler who made her engagement ring, the symbol of the moment Peter asked her to share his life. There was history, not borrowed royal history, but a pedigree of its own, reaching back to 2 coronations of the 20th century. And there was kinship, a visual nod to Princess Anne's own tiara, an acknowledgement of the family she was joining. What she did not do was reach for the easy symbol of inherited hierarchy. She did not draw from a vault that was never hers. She bucked the expectation of a royal loan, and the trend of the tiara-less second wedding too. Instead, an NHS nurse marrying into the most famous family in Britain chose to look glamorous, regal, and entirely herself. She wore a crown that was royal-coded but not royal-owned, a piece that honoured the family without disappearing into it. And perhaps that is the most telling jewel of all. Not the diamonds, not the pearls, but the quiet confidence of a woman who decided that her wedding day would belong to her story first. If this jewel told you a richer story than you expected, that is exactly what we do here at Behind the Gift. Stay with us. There are many more of these quiet histories still to tell.